Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm here with a very special guest. My guest is a level 2 counseling certified professional who gives motivational tips and strength for people eating with eating disorders. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my guest, great Georgia Grace.
Hi, thank you.
All right, this is a very special episode to tell me all about it because Georgia, you are from a different country. Would you like to tell the viewers where you're from?
I am. I'm from England, the lovely of England.
I'm sorry, you went out for a second. You mind repeating that?
Yeah, of course, England.
Alrighty, so this interview is about your recovery through eating disorder and how you've helped others and how you continue to help others through your Instagram page. So let's get into it. So by first, let's define what is an eating disorder because some people may think it's only people who restrict themselves from eating. Some may say it's people who overeat. So what is really the definition of eating disorder?
So, the way I like to view an eating disorder is if you think about food in a negative way, if you fear food, restrict, or try to manipulate not just your body, but your whole life by maybe means of controlling life, using food, for me, that would be classed as an eating disorder or at the very least disordered eating behaviors, which the recovery approach to both eating disorder and disordered eating, in my opinion, like, and again, I can only speak from my personal experience, but they follow the same path.
Following your story with eating, with food really, over 10 years, at what age did you realize, or did the pattern start of your eating disorder? What age you remember, okay, this is when this started?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked because I think it can be so difficult for people to pinpoint exactly when something started. And for me, it's taken a lot of work, a lot of self reflection. Um, from a very young age, from being the age of like 3, 4 years old, I can remember using food as a comfort, and as a safety. I mean, I had a very healthy appetite, much healthier, much bigger appetite than my siblings, than sort of my friends around the same age as me. Um, and it just became a thing. I was the kid that could eat and eat and eat. And I was in a big body as a child. And again, that became a label. And I think that's when it can become dangerous when a person is excluded from a group, either because of a body size or because of their eating behaviors. That, of course, will make that person doubt themselves and question their behaviors, which will just perpetuate this cycle of not being able to trust yourself with your food.
Would you say at that early age, food was an emotional support for you, whether you were happy, sad,
Oh,
upset, frustrated, food was always that comfort?
yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I think it's one of those where, for most people, food is kind of always there. If you're happy, and especially, I think, with people, so I'm 25, so my generation, our parents, by no fault of their own, if you've passed an exam or you've done well at school, oh hey, let's go and buy some sweets. If you're sad, oh let's go and have an ice cream. If you've hurt yourself, well, stop crying, have some chocolate, and it becomes this continuous throughout your life that is always going to be there.
Um, Eating disorders comes from different ways. It can come from wanting control, it can come from body dysmorphia. How did
Yeah.
your eating disorder really start from? Was it you wanting to control, or was it watching other people and their bodies and like, why doesn't my body look like that, or how can I get my body to look a certain way?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, for me, and I think a lot of people fall into this category where it's a little bit of everything. So I definitely, so like I said earlier, I was fat as a child, just in a larger body, which is like it's just a thing. It's no problem. It's neither good nor bad. But via sort of means of comparing myself to others, whether that was my peers, like in real life, whether that was TV shows. I mean, when I was a kid, the Instagram, social media wasn't a thing just yet, but magazines and things, I was made to feel like my body was less good, like less worthy than slimmer bodies. So that was a part of it. So there was definitely a desire to lose weight, to be able to fit into a socially acceptable mold. And then also body dysmorphia comes into play with it. And then also, like you mentioned, that need for control. Like I had quite a sort of generally happy childhood, but of course, there's always in any person's life, there's always going to be things, and sometimes they're very obvious things, sometimes they're less obvious things, but things that are going to throw that person and they're going to make them feel scared and lost and like they don't know where to go and what to do. And that happened to me. It was just like every person goes through exam seasons at school, moving house, moving countries, families, sort of situations. Um, and yeah, and if for me, being able to, or thinking I was able to control my food, control my body, was just a little crutch for me. It was like, right, I can't control anything, but at least I can control my food. However, I mean that was an illusion because in the end of the day, food ended up controlling me.
You know, you talk when we think about eating disorders, we know what physically it can do to your body. What were some of the things mentally you were going through during this eating disorder, during your actively battling it? What was mentally some of the things that was going on through your head?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad you asked that as well because, of course, eating disorders, I think it's becoming less so, but typically when you say eating disorder, you think of a extremes. You think of either an extremely underweight person or an extremely sort of overweight person. Um, but it's at the end of the day, it's a mental illness, and we've got to consider mental state over the weight of the individual suffering, and the suffering is mental and it is all consuming. So, like at my very worst, it was just a case of I could not think about anything else other than food, other than exercise. How would I manipulate my food that day? When would I eat? What would I eat? How would like calorie counting, counting sort of exercise and calories burned and steps walked, and it was exhausting. And of course, when you aren't nourishing your brain, there isn't room for anything else in your brain. So it impacted not only my physical health, but also just my mood absolutely just plummeted. As you can imagine, if your life sort of is slowly falling to pieces around you when you're trying so hard to control everything, you're going to feel pretty shit, let's face it. So, yeah, I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, my social life. Well, basically, I lost all of my social life because I my friends didn't understand, and also I didn't want to socialize. All I wanted to do was um, micromanage my food and exercise. So I didn't want to go out with friends. So it obliterated my social life. Work became extremely difficult. I attempted studying. I did attempt to go to university or college, as you call it. But I couldn't do it. It was just exhausting. So yeah, it was not a good time, and definitely the mental struggles of it, the unseen, what you can't see on the outside is, I would say, 99% of the struggle of having an eating disorder, and it's horrible.
Would you say the more you try to control the situation, the less control you had over it?
Oh my goodness, yes. And I think that can be applied to quite a few different situations, but especially with eating disorder. Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the lowest day you can remember throughout your active battle?
Um, that's a real tricky one, because there's been a lot. I'll give you a few. So, um, my relationships with my parents has been absolutely destroyed, and thankfully they've stuck by me, and I'm very grateful for that. But I can remember massive arguments with my parents, and seeing your parents cry because essentially you are refusing to look after yourself, see hurting your parents unintentionally, but obviously seeing your parents be hurt by your actions, that that was a very, very low moment. And then I did go to hospital as well. I was an inpatient at a residential hospital, eating disorder hospital. And I would say there wasn't one specific day, that whole time for me was a low, because being surrounded by other patients suffering some worse than me, um, that was just horrible. Like the comparison, it's sad. It's really, really sad to see so many people in so much pain. So that was definitely an all-time low as well.
You don't have to answer this question if you don't, but you talked about being in a hospital. Did it ever get to a point where where they had to put a medical device, if anyone doesn't know, it's called an NG tube, where they put a device in your nose and they feed you through a machine. Did it ever get to that point?
No, that thankfully that never happened to me. Ironically, I was actually more afraid of the like the drink or whatever they do put in through the NG tube than I was food. So
Okay.
that me, my brain works as like I am doing anything I can to avoid getting the tube or the drink, like the supplement drink. So I always like ate my food in the hospital. Um, and yeah, so thankfully, but then I saw that happen to many other people, and it definitely is like quite traumatic, to, for lack of a better word. It is scary to see, and I can't even imagine how scary it must be to go through something like that as well. Yeah, so, but just then I've just a thought came into my mind when, so in hospital, I always ate my meals, and obviously I was diagnosed with an eating disorder. I have had, and I am in recovery from an eating disorder. I think it's important to say that never once have I like skipped a meal. And I think that's a preconception that you think, oh, someone with anorexia just doesn't eat. Someone with bulimia will just like binge and purge. And that's not necessarily true. There's nuance in all of it. So like, yeah, I've always eaten my meals. It's just that I wasn't able to support my body with the correct macronutrients or a balanced meal, or I would like purge via exercise. Um, and there's all these different factors that contribute to someone having an eating disorder. There is no um, one way, one image, one version. I think that's important for people to know and be aware of.
Would you say you knew how to manipulate the system in the sense that if I'm in the hospital, I know what I have to do so I don't have to get the tube and get the shakes that they give you. But once I get out, I know how to get out of the hospital. I know what to do. I know what I need to do to get out of the hospital. But once I get out of the hospital, I can go back to doing whatever I want and not eating it and not eating what I need to eat to keep my body healthy.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's like you're in my you've lived in my shoes. Yeah, that's exactly what like I know I did. I've had conversations with people that I was in hospital with who have done the exact same thing, where you, so I mean, hospital, being an inpatient, I it did save my life, like it kept me alive. However, did it progress me in my recovery? Absolutely not. It kept me alive. It maintained my life. As soon as I was discharged, or actually I discharged myself in the situation, um yeah, I just spiraled right back. So the only way that I personally have made progress in my recovery, or I like to call it a discovery of myself, of my like life without an eating disorder, is by really being brutally honest with myself and taking responsibility for my own actions and for my own recovery. And it's difficult to do. But I think in any situation of recovery from whether it's an eating disorder, an addiction, substance abuse, self harm, anything like that, I think taking responsibility for your own actions and really like doing it for yourself is probably the most powerful step you can take.
We just talked about your parents a little bit with that last question. Obviously, it seems like you had a great relationship with your parents prior to the start of this, and that you had a great childhood, and that they loved you. And clearly, they do love you if they're sitting in the hospital crying over you and fighting for you. And nobody wants to put their parents through any pain. Did Looking back on it, do you realize how much of Georgia was removed from that person who was sick to put your parents through that? Because clearly, it wasn't Georgia thinking; it was the eating disorder took over.
Yeah, and I love that you say that. I think like a big part of any sort of eating disorder therapy or recovery work is to separate your true self, your authentic self, your higher self, whatever you want to call that, from the eating disorder. And it's naming the eating disorder as something external to you. And 100%, like um, the eating disorder turned me into a horrible person, and definitely not who I am at my core. Um, yeah, and it's sad, it's scary. I can remember feeling completely dissociated, as if someone's like taken over my brain and body, and maybe like I want to speak kindly to my parents or my partner, whoever's like with me, but the eating disorder snaps right back. And maybe I actually want to eat my meal calmly, but the eating disorder will take over and make me have an absolute meltdown over it. Um, yeah, so it's definitely a case of being able to separate your own identity, your own value, your own worth from the eating disorder that is essentially trying to take over your mind and body.
We talked about your lowest point, and it was you at the hospital. Whenever you had to go to the hospital,
Hmm.
how sick were you? Looking back, emotionally, mentally, and physically, how sick were you?
I think that's quite a difficult one because at the
Well, let's
time,
separate them. Let's separate into three: emotionally, mentally, and physically.
yeah, that's okay. So I think emotionally and mentally, I wasn't coping. Um, I was at a place where I was able to like get up and do my day, but my day was Groundhog Day, and it was just the same routine of moving the same amount, eating the same amount, and doing any like chores, anything that was kind of punitive. I had no joy in my life. I had no room for hobbies, for pleasure, for fun. And it was really low. And yeah, I was just scared of stopping this behavior, this like routine that I was trapped in, because I didn't know how else to live. Um, so yeah, so mentally, physically, I mean, I had to stop work just because I wasn't able to concentrate. Or I like, yeah, it was just a bad time for work. Definitely an all-time low for me emotionally and mentally. And then physically, um, I was very bad sort of for myself. Like I did reach a very like dangerous underweight category, like yeah, very dangerous low weight. Um, my period had stopped. Um, like brittle hair, brittle nails, feeling cold, like painfully cold all of the time. Um, so I was in a bad way, definitely. And I think again at the time, I did not realize that at all. There's a common situation that happens with people with eating disorders, and it might happen in other mental health disorders. I'm not sure, but I think it's called agnosia. I might be butchering that, but it's basically when you don't recognize how unwell you are, and it's a protective mechanism. So at the time, I just thought, okay, yeah, I know I'm thin. I know that I've had to stop work, but I'm okay. I can keep going. And I was a very like it was this false positivity that I was just keeping up to survive, basically. And as soon as I was like snapped out of that and put into a hospital, I was like, I just realized how the eating disorder had destroyed my whole life, my mental, emotional, physical health, and everything in my life around me.
Wait, what was your breaking point? What was the point where it's like, Enough's enough. I'm tired of arguing with family. I'm tired of arguing with myself. I'm tired of hospitals. I'm tired of therapy that's going nowhere. What was the breaking point for you?
Oh, there's been many, So I think for me, recovery's kind of happened in stages where I realized that a certain behavior or a certain like thought pattern has to stop. And each of those moments have been catapulted, for lack of a better word, by, like you said, like a moment. Um, One of the first ones was, so I discharged myself from inpatient hospital, and then I felt quite unwell.
Just 1 second. When you say discharge yourself, it's you left AMA. So like against medical leave.
I did, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I did that, and then I was at home getting by, pretending to be in recovery. Sort of, I gained a little bit of weight. I was eating a bit more. I was surviving basically, but I got really unwell with like just a virus, and I felt like I was going to die. For like, to be truthful, my body just couldn't handle it, and all it was like a sickness bug. My partner also had it. He was unwell, but he was okay. I was not okay. Just the fact that I couldn't stomach eating my safe foods. I was feeling too unwell to go and do my exercise routine. And I was too scared to like actually sit and rest and let my body recover. And when you've got a vomiting bug, they say like you've got to eat sort of very plain bland foods, and I was too scared to even do that. And I was like, at that point, I was like, right, this is pretty severe. You're very unwell from a bug, and you're not even willing, or you're too scared to take the actions that you need to just to recover from this bug because of the eating disorder. So that was one big point. And that really kickstarted like the big recovery moment. And then through the big sort of like recovery journey, there's been many more little moments. And one of them was realizing that I do want a family in the future, and that to be able to do that, I need to have like a healthy reproductive system, healthy menstrual cycle. So that hit hard, and that wasn't too long ago that hit me. And then different moments where, like, I've been to a family member's birthday party and been too afraid to join in eating birthday cake. And it's just the little things that people will do every day. You don't really think about every day, but then when you realize it, it really takes you aback, and it hits you hard in the feelings.
Um, Food, as far as addiction, is so different from any other addiction because drugs, you can stay away from drugs. Alcohol, you can stay away from alcohol. Gambling, you can stay away from gambling. You have to eat. You have to
Yes.
survive. So, what makes food addiction or eating disorder, anything in that category, just so different from anything else and so much more challenging than anything else?
Yeah, I mean, so in my opinion, food addiction is actually the addiction to the restriction that we are addicted to. Food itself, in my mind, can't be an addictive substance because it is a vital substance that we need. That's not to say that there aren't some foods, like your highly processed chemical foods, that have substances in them that make us want them more and more. That's obvious. That is the case. But I think it's the addiction to the restriction that we have, and it, just like anything, like alcohol, like drugs, it will completely numb us, or it will give us a sense of control, or give our brains something to do when everything else seems so overwhelming. It gives us a latch to focus on. But yeah, just as you said, like, we need to eat to survive, to be healthy. We need to, not just for like our health and in terms of like sort of calories in to give us energy, but food is part of life. Food is in every social occasion that you go to, there will be food involved in one way or another. And that's really difficult to navigate in recovery. And I think probably difficult to navigate for anyone. So it's about learning to really trust your body and know that your body trusts you, building that relationship back. Because I think, like you said, sort of with alcohol, with drugs, it's a case of abstinence. Whereas with recovery from an eating disorder, or body dysmorphia, or both, you are learning to heal a relationship with food rather than remove that relationship. So it's about healing the relationship with food, with body, building trust. And it takes consistency, it takes time, and it takes showing up for yourself every single day and doing the hardest thing, which is like eat the goddamn food and sit down and just keep going multiple times a day. So yeah.
This morning, well, morning time for me, probably early afternoon for you, you made a post about control and is having control worth losing your life?
Yes.
And with eating disorders, people are trying to gain control. And we talked about control in this interview earlier on. Did you start to see yourself gaining more control of your life the healthier relationship with food got? Like the control you were dying for, searching for when you were battling, the healthier your relationship with food got, did your control increase?
Yeah, I love that you say that actually. So, yeah, so as I developed the eating disorder, I thought that I was controlling my food, controlling my body. I thought that if I could do this, everything would be perfect. That's not, everything spiraled completely down the drain. As I have recovered, progressing in my recovery still every day, the true, authentic me, the core version of myself, gets to call the shots. I can decide for myself if I want to exercise or if I don't. If I want to join in and yes, go to this social occasion, eat birthday cake, or I do not. And now my core self from a place of love is in the driving seat of the driver's seat rather than having the eating disorder, like try and control the driver's, the car. Um, and it feels pretty cool. It's like it's quite empowering when I can look back and think like no, like I'm a big girl and I will decide if I want to go out for pizza with my friends. I will decide if I want to stay in bed and skip a workout or if I want to go for a walk. Like fear and the eating disorder is no longer in control. Like I am slowly and surely taking back the power and growing and discovering what my life looks like without the eating disorder, and that is having the true control, I think, and that's where the power actually truly lies.
All right, now that we talked about it, let's get to some of the brighter days ahead. You have a page that is to me very successful because you help others who are actively in their battle. And I say actively because it's a battle you're always going to be fighting, but when you're in the grit of it, it's different from post recovery or having a better handle on the things. How
Yeah.
did you get to your point of not only am I in a better space to now get up and have control over the food I eat or exercising and all those things, but now I'm going to help others in their journey through eating disorder? Because you're not just, giving quotes and calling it a day. You're posting pictures of food. You're posting pictures of you eating. Like you're actively showing, hey, I did this. You can do this. And let me show you how I did this.
Yeah. So to me, that basically, I um the way I've progressed in my recovery is by reaching out to fellow like eating disorder recovery coaches, people sharing their true experience of real recovery, because I will say there is a lot of BS out there as well where we don't need to go there. Um, so, like for me, I want to inspire people to recover just like I have been inspired to recover by other people. I want to share that because I think it's powerful. And I've said this before, but I think like people with eating disorders or any sort of addiction problem really are very intelligent people, and like the world needs them, but we need them, like the world needs them to be recovered. Um, and yeah, so I just want to help people recover to be able to discover their true power, their like authenticity, their worth, their value, and know that they are so much more than an eating disorder. They are so much more than a body size or than like a vegan diet, anything. Like every person is worth so much more than any of those things just by being a human being living a free, full life. And I just want to share that. And there's also a very like a more selfish side to it is I love it. I love like sharing my story. It helps me. It's therapeutic for me, and I absolutely like. I get so happy when someone sends me a DM or likes a post or comments saying, "Wow, this has really helped me." Like I get such a buzz off it. So there's also a more personally sort of selfish side to it.
What is the biggest misconception about someone with an eating disorder?
Oh, I think that it's a body size. I think the biggest misconception is that an eating disorder has an image, um, and that the biggest misconception about recovery is that you just need to eat the food because it is so much more than eating the food. It's healing your whole relationship on a deep level with yourself, the younger version of yourself, healing a relationship with the future version of yourself, with your family, your friends, and again, essentially healing the relationship with food, with movement, and with your body. And it goes deep and it takes a lot of hard work. It's not as easy as just eat the food, but eating the food is a critical part of it.
Not that long ago, we were talking about your parents. You know,
Yeah.
you guys really went through it when you were in the hospital, or just every day home, you being home with them, you went through it. What does your relationship look like now? Because I can imagine it had to take long, it took years to recover from that, to go
Yeah.
from screaming and yelling to fighting and probably saying things you really didn't mean to now where you are now with your family and loved ones.
Yeah, I think so. My parents are awesome. Um, and I mean, we are obviously, you're always going to cringe at your mum when she says something, and that's inevitable. I'm always going to think that my dad's a little bit, like a bit of an old man, and I'm always going to think that. But like, they're my friends now, and they are, I, I mean, I've told them quite clearly that if I'm struggling, I will go to them. And it's taken a lot, especially for my mum, to stop asking me multiple times a day, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Have you eaten? Are you okay?" Um, but like it's understandable because like they have gone through it with me and they have obviously suffered as well, and it's natural for a parent to worry. Um, so again, it just takes time, consistency, setting boundaries. I would say is a huge part of it. And just saying to my parents and then the other loved ones, like at the end of the day, I'm so stubborn that I am the only one that will do do what I need to do. Like I'm not going to let anybody else do it because that's just in my nature. So when I need help, if I need help, I will come to you. Otherwise, please just treat me as your friend, as your daughter. Let's have a laugh. Let's have some fun. And it's still a work in progress, and I think it will always be a work in progress. But it is so much better and just more peaceful.
From start to finish, well, start to now,
Yeah.
what is the most proud moment you've had with food, your relationship with food?
Oh, I think getting to a place where I can have most foods in my house, and I know, I mean, there still might be some anxiety around some foods, but generally, like I can have fruit and vegetables, I can have bread, I can have cookies and sweets and crisps in the house, and I know that I have permission unconditionally to go and eat any of those foods at any time that my body or brain wants to for any reason. It doesn't have to be explained. Um, yeah, just being at that place where I know that I have the permission to eat anything and that I'm not scared of keeping that food in my house anymore is pretty big for me. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I know you give advice for everyone else and what they should do or what they can do and give them motivational speeches and tips on their eating disorders. But if you can go back all those years later, you can talk to Georgia who's sitting in that hospital, who's crying, parents are crying, the hospital's, bringing in trays for them to eat. If you could, for her to eat, What can you tell, or what's the best advice you can tell that Georgia?
Just face your fears. Um, my biggest is, I hate to say the word regret, but I at the minute this is how I feel. Is my biggest regret is not just doing it sooner. Um, I felt for so long I was more afraid of the fear itself, if that makes sense. Like I was afraid of being scared. Um, when actually I think it's a case of I would tell myself, listen, this is going to be hard and this is going to be scary, but you need to just do it and you need to do it now because you are running out of time. I mean, I'm only 20, like I'll be 26 next year, but the time really does speed up as you get older. And these last few years have flashed by like that. And I feel like, yeah, it just goes by so fast. So just take some action now, face your fears, and just be scared, but do it.
Alrighty. All right, so I usually ask all my guests this if we have time at the end. It's a bonus question. I have some friends out in London. I'm always telling them I'm going to come out to London. If I go to London, what is one place I have to visit? Whether it be a park, a bar, a restaurant, museum. What's one place I got to come out and visit?
You know what? So I am not local to London.
Okay, will
So
you?
I'm gonna take that out of London and I'm gonna tell you to go to there's a place in the north of England, it's the Lake District. You can get there on the train from London, it's a few hours and it is stunning and like to me it's the most peaceful place. And there's just the whole place is lovely. Like there's a lake that you can walk around. There's a nice, cute little town that sell like local knitted things and local ice cream, and it's beautiful. So the Lake District in the north of England is where I would like you to go if you get the chance.
Alrighty. All right. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel. As
No,
always, you can
do.
follow me guys at Tell Me All About It on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. To continue to follow Georgia's story, you can follow her at Georgia Recovers, Georgia Grace Recovers. This story will be on YouTube and Spotify, so make sure you guys check it out. Thank you so much, Georgia, for being a part of this channel.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All
Big
right.
love.
Till next time, guys.
Yeah, bye.